sorcerer. A real-life, honest-to-God sorcerer.
Will Byers just admitted something that should terrify you, because in episode 5, Will finally says it out loud. I'm not like a second L. I don't have powers. I'm siphoning, I'm stealing Vecnas.
We got our second L. I'm not like a second L. I don't have powers. I'm siphoning, I'm stealing Vecnas, and to do that, I have to be near the hive mind, and Vecna's not coming back.
That line is not character development. That line is a rule. It means Will isn't powered. He's connected. And if he's connected, Vecna can use him like a cable, or worse. Vecna can build more cables, and episode 5 tells us exactly how many. 12. Okay, let's keep this simple. Most people think there are only 2 types of supernatural people in Stranger Things. You're either like 11, you have powers, or you're normal, you don't. But episode 5 breaks that idea in half, because Will sits right in the middle. He's not strong, he's not gifted. He's a receiver, a human antenna, and they literally call him that. Drive him around like a human antenna. That's not a joke line. That's the show telling you the mechanic in plain English. Will is not casting magic. He's picking up a signal, and that signal belongs to Vecna. So when Mike and the others start trying to label Will like it's a D&D character sheet, wizard, sorcerer, it almost feels cute, like, aw, the kids are still doing the D&D thing. But Will shuts it down. Because he knows the truth. He's not getting stronger, he's getting closer. And that means his power has a range limit, just like a spell, just like a tether, just like a warlock in D&D. Now, if you don't play D&D, here's the easiest way to understand it. A wizard is like a student. They study, they learn, they train. That's 11. A sorcerer is like a battery. The power is inside them. That's how Henry was born, and how Kaylee hints she was made. But a warlock? A warlock is a phone that borrowed somebody else's charger. It works until the charger gets pulled out. And in episode 5, Vecna doesn't just pull the charger, he yanks it out of the wall. Because Will admits another key rule. He can only siphon Vecna when he's near the hive mind. So the group doesn't say, let's train Will. They say, let's get him closer. That's why they start talking like engineers. They're not building a weapon, they're boosting a connection. And this is where episode 5 gets insane, because the plan they choose is basically dark magic dressed up as science. They take a dead Demogorgon, and they decide to pump it full of electricity. They literally compare it to Frankenstein. And think about what that really is. They're using a corpse as a focus, a conduit, a spell component. They're trying to wake up the hive particles inside something dead. So it becomes a living relay tower. That is a ritual. It's not just gross, it's smart, and it works for a moment. And that moment is the proof that changes everything. Because Will doesn't just sense something. He doesn't just feel sad and point north. He actually hijacks. He gets in. He finds the network. And for a brief second, he takes control. That is the scariest part. Not because Will is dangerous, but because it confirms Vecna's system can be hacked. Which is why Joyce drops the single most important line in the whole episode. Stab him with his own sword. That is not a random phrase. That is D&D foreshadowing. In D&D, Vecna's story always comes back to betrayal, to an inside man, to a cursed blade, to the idea that Vecna doesn't get beaten by more power. He gets beaten by his own system turning on him. So Joyce basically hands you the ending theme. Beat him using his own connection. And episode 5 proves the connection is real. But here's the catch. The same scene also proves something else. Vecna can kick Will out instantly, like a server banning an account. So Will isn't becoming the hero. He's becoming the access point. And if Vecna is the one controlling the access, that means every time Will uses the power, Vecna learns. Vecna maps the route. Vecna sees the back door. So now ask the question episode 5 wants you to ask. If Will can siphon Vecna's power, what can Vecna do with Will? And the episode answers it, right in the opening scene. Vecna looks at the kids in his prison and says the word that should make your stomach drop. Vessels.
Because they are weak. Easily broken. Easily reshaped. Controlled. The perfect vessels.
He calls them weak, easily broken, controlled. Perfect vessels. And then later, the show does something very sneaky. It connects Will's mechanic to Vecna's endgame, because Max and the others realize the kidnapping is not the goal. The kidnapping is the setup. Vecna tells them he's using the children to reshape the world. Let's translate that into normal human language. Vecna doesn't want 12 hostages. He wants 12 batteries, 12 amplifiers, 12 living extension cords, which is why this number matters so much. All 12. It's said like a checkpoint, like a ritual circle snapping shut, like the last candle being lit. And here's what makes it even darker. Vecna isn't just stacking bodies, he's stacking minds, because minds are easier to sync, easier to manipulate, easier to tune. That's why Will was the perfect prototype. Will is already wired into Vecna's frequency. He's already proven he can carry the signal. So when Vecna says vessels, what he really means is repeatable design. And episode 5 gives you a countdown. November 6th. It's the day it ends. That's not a spooky prophecy. That's a deadline. That's a cast time. That's the ritual finishing date. In D&D terms, this is when the big spell goes off, and the party is racing the clock. Now, here's the part where episode 5 plays like a real D&D session. Because the group doesn't have one clean plan, they have two, and both are messy. Plan A is the smart plan. Rebuild the tracker with Mr. Clark. Slow, safe-ish. Plan B is the we're going to die, but we might win plan. Electrify a dead monster and pray it works. And they literally say the kind of stuff you hear at a table. No bad ideas. They're basically throwing darts because they don't fully understand what they're touching yet. And that's where Dustin's shield generator moment comes in. Dustin explains this lab like a dungeon room. He uses Return of the Jedi. He says, protective energy shield. Shield generator. He's doing what Dustin always does. He's giving the party the map. But episode 5 twists the knife. Because what they think is a shield is actually something else. They look at that sphere and assume it's dark magic. And then the warning hits. It's not dark magic. It's something else. If you destroy it, you will die. Everyone will die. That is such a DM moment. That's the party reaching for the glowing orb. And the DM saying, are you sure? Because once you break the wrong object in a dungeon, you don't just trigger a trap, you collapse the whole room. And in episode 5, Nancy already fired. So the consequence isn't coming later. It already started. Now, quick side note, because this is another D&D style clue hidden in plain sight. The episode keeps doing name magic. There's a moment where Mike says Vecna, and someone reacts like he just said a forbidden word. Vecna? I didn't say that name. How do you know that name? That's classic fantasy logic. Names matter. Names mean knowledge, and knowledge means power. And episode 5 keeps reminding you that Henry and Vecna are not the same thing. Even Henry says, hello, my name is Henry. The show is pushing a theme that the identity is part of the weakness, which matters. Because if Will's power is a tether, then the way you break a tether is not by punching it. It's by naming it, by exposing it, by turning it against the owner. And that brings us to the final piece. The quick reference that changes how you should hear Vecna's speech. Because by the end of episode 5, you might think, okay, Vecna is just mind controlling these kids. Number. He's selling them something. He promises the light. He tells them they're special, that they have dormant powers, that they'll become heroes. He's not just forcing them to obey, he's making them want to. And if you know D&D, that's the difference between a spell that controls you and a spell that binds you through a promise. A devil bargain. Aegeus, a quest you think you chose. And he seals it with the most important line in the episode. Because tomorrow it begins. So here's what episode 5 actually did. It didn't just give Will a new ability. It revealed Will as a connection, a living cable, a backdoor into Vecna's system. And it revealed Vecna isn't building an army. He's building a circuit, 12 vessels, 12 amplifiers, 12 chances to reshape reality. And if Will is proof the siphoning works, then those 12 kids are not victims. They're spell components. Which means the real question for the finale isn't, can they beat Vecna? It's, what happens when Vecna gets 12 wills and flips the switch?